Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight?
Tonight's article comes from AmericanMilitaryNews.com, and the title is Navy Pilot Claims Dark Mass Came Up from Ocean Depths and Swallowed a Torpedo. And it was written on October 9th, 2019, and it's by Kyle Perisic. Retired U.S. Navy pilot Commander David Fravor claimed on October 5th that a mystery dark mass emerged from the ocean depths and swallowed a torpedo whole. Fravor, who has publicly stated his account in a UFO sighting, said on Joe Rogan's popular podcast that a pilot had a similar experience in the late 1990s off the coast of Puerto Rico. They're 50 feet, 15 meters above the water. He sees this kind of dark mass coming up from the depths, he said, as transcribed by the Daily Star. As they hoist the BQM torpedo up, he's looking at this thing going, "What the hell is that?" And then it just goes back down underwater. Once they pull the kid and the BQM out of the water, this object descends back into the depths. While the other pilot thought the incident was strange, indicating some skepticism, the same thing happened a few months later, Fravor claimed. He's picking up a torpedo. They hook the diver up on the winch, and as they're lowering him down, he sees this big mass, Fravor said. He goes, "It's not a submarine." He's seen submarines before. Once you've seen a submarine, you can't confuse it with something else. This big object, kind of circular, is coming up from the depths, and he starts screaming through the intercom system to tell them to pull the diver up. And the diver's only a few feet from the water, he added. They reverse the winch, and the diver's thinking, "What the hell is going on?" And all of a sudden, he said the torpedo just got sucked down underwater, and the object just descended back down into the depths. Fravor said they never recovered the torpedo, and the helicopter pilot was adamant that the torpedo didn't sink, as it literally looked like it got sucked down. Commander Fravor first drew public attention in 2017 after describing his alleged encounter with a UFO. He claimed his encounter, referred to as the USS Nimitz UFO incident, with a strange object while he was in flight in 2004, was something not from this world. Fravor said the object was flying around a patch of white water in the ocean below, a white tic-tac about the same size as a hornet, 40 feet long with no wings, Fravor described, just hanging close to the water. And when he's talking about the size of a hornet, he's not talking about like the bee, the hornet that's like a bee. He's talking about the plane, the Navy plane, in case there's anybody that doesn't know that. I'm sure everybody does. As I get closer, as my nose is starting to pull back up, it accelerates and it's gone, he said. Faster than I've ever seen anything in my life. We turn around, say, "Let's go see what's in the water," and there's nothing, just blue water. I don't think I was a nut job as an officer in the Navy. I wasn't drunk. I don't do drugs. I got a good night's rest. It was a clear day, he said. I think someone should have looked into it. Having talked to some of the other folks, it's a big frustration that it's coming out now and wasn't discussed back in 2004. While Fravor is often ridiculed for his theories, the U.S. Navy recently admitted that a series of UFO videos are real. And that is the end of this article. Now, first of all, I'd like to say that I saw this episode of the Joe Rogan podcast that Fravor was on. I watched it in its entirety. And this gentleman, Fravor, is not a crackpot. That is not how he came across to me when I watched it. He seemed rational. He seemed logical. He knew what he was talking about. He was in the Navy. He was a pilot. And he in no way seemed like he was making it up. So it definitely seemed like he was telling the truth when he told the story to Joe. Also on that podcast, one of the best lines on that podcast was when he saw this thing. Now I'm talking here about the incident where he saw a UFO flying that he talked about on the Joe Rogan show. When he saw it, his response was he wanted to fly it, which I thought was perfectly badass. That's a military thing to say. That's what a pilot says is, "Hey man, I want to fly that thing." because it's way faster, way better than what I'm flying, and he wants to fly the very best out there. So he did not come across as in any way a crackpot. Now, this particular thing they're talking about here, basically what was happening was a guy was trying to retrieve this torpedo, and something came up from the depths and just sucked the torpedo in and disappeared with it. So what was that thing? Well, it says they're 50 feet above the water, and they see a dark mass coming up from the depths. Now, as they're bringing this torpedo up, they're watching this thing coming towards the torpedo, and they're like, what is this thing? They got the kid out of the water, and the torpedo up with him, and the object went back down in. Now, this happened again a few months later. They're doing the same thing, and they see a big mass again coming up towards this torpedo. They described it as a big object that was circular, and it was coming up from the depths through the water. They're trying to bring this torpedo up, and whatever this dark mass was just sucked the torpedo in. So it basically stole their torpedo and then disappeared with it. So the question is this what probably everybody was thinking? Is some sort of alien craft that is in our ocean? Is that what stole the torpedo? The other option here would be some sort of very large marine animal or creature that stole it. Ate it probably. Now, I don't know why anything would want to eat a torpedo. That doesn't seem like a very good lunch. That seems like it would be very dangerous and probably fatal to whatever ate it. But there are definitely things in the ocean that would be large enough to eat it if they chose to. I mean, without even getting into legendary or extinct kind of creatures, you have multiple species of whale that would absolutely be large enough to eat a torpedo. But none of them would be circular. You have the giant squid, that would be large enough to grab a torpedo and stuff it away in its mouth and leave if it chose to. But usually that's not a circular shape. I mean, I guess if it's coming up and all you're seeing is the top of its head, maybe it looks circular. And maybe it reached up and grabbed the torpedo with a tentacle and took off with it. That's possible. You would think that they would have saw one of the tentacles, but maybe they didn't. You have the megalodon shark, which was a shark that supposedly went extinct a long time ago, but it was basically the size of a school bus. So that would be large enough to take a torpedo out if it wanted to and eat it. But one problem with that is everybody says it's extinct, although I don't really believe that because there have been sightings of the megalodon in the water, and it's up for debate whether it's actually extinct or not. It definitely could still be alive. It could be living deep down where we don't normally go, because we haven't explored much of the ocean at all. But that also isn't circular. When you're talking circular, you're probably talking some sort of ray. A stingray, a manta ray, something like that. They would have a more circular kind of shape. So could there be a gigantic ray of some sort in the ocean? Possibly. I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds of different species in the ocean. We have no idea what they are. We've never even seen them before. Because like I said, we haven't explored much of the ocean. And the ocean goes way, way deep. And we don't ever go that deep. We have a couple times went to the bottom of like the Mariana Trench, which is like the deepest part of the ocean. It's like 30-some thousand feet down, I believe. But it's only happened a few times, and it's very, very dark down there, so you can only see as far as a light will shine. And the pressure is insane at that depth. So you can't stay down there very long. You can't really go down there with larger craft that have multiple cameras and big lights and all that kind of stuff, because the pressure is just too strong. It'll just implode whatever you're in. The only way to survive it is a heavily reinforced, heavily armored, very, very small craft that is able to withstand that pressure for a certain amount of time before it crumples like a tin can. So you have a limited window when you're down there. So we haven't explored really deep yet, very much at all. So it's possible that some sort of very large creature lives really, really deep in the ocean. But why would something that lives that far down in the ocean that we don't know about come up to the surface to grab a torpedo. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So most likely, it wasn't an animal we're talking about. Could have been, but I would doubt it. So if it's not an animal, then what could it possibly be? Now, we're not even mentioning like sea monster kind of creatures because there's really no proof that they exist. There's legends about them. And some of those legends, such as the legend of the Kraken, has turned out to be true. Because the Kraken was a giant squid, and we have a giant squid that we now know exists. But most likely what we're dealing with here is something man-made. Either man-made or alien-made. It was made by intelligent design. So if we're dealing with an alien ship here, that would make sense because maybe they wanted a sample of our weaponry for whatever reason. If they're technologically advanced enough to get here, then most likely they're way more advanced than we are anyway, so our weapons probably wouldn't do a whole lot of damage, but maybe they would. Maybe they want to see. There have definitely been theories and different accounts of people saying that they have seen spacecraft flying above the ocean go down into the water and disappear. And they've also seen craft come out of the ocean and fly away. So it's possible maybe aliens are using our oceans as sort of a base. Maybe they have multiple bases set up all over the world deep in our oceans because they have the technology to be able to hide down there and we can't find them because we don't really ever look around down in the ocean much. That's possible. The other option is it's something man-made, in which case it was obviously not our military that was doing it, because why would our military steal a torpedo from ourselves? That makes really no sense. So you're looking at another country's military, and it would have to be one of the big countries like Russia or China or something like that that would be advanced enough to have something like that. But again, what would be the purpose? It wasn't like this was cutting-edge weaponry. This was just a torpedo. Most navies in the world have torpedoes. They have submarines, they have torpedoes. That's the way it works. So it's not like it's cutting-edge stuff that they're trying to get a hold of so that they can figure out how it works. I mean, everybody knows how torpedoes work. So I would say on this one, there was most likely an alien craft that did this. That would be my guess. And if that's the case, that's a pretty profound discovery. Because we're not dealing with some redneck in the middle of nowhere that claims that an alien abducted him and butt diddled him and dropped him back off. We're dealing with the United States Navy here. We're dealing with the military saying, hey, this happened. This is not on some guy's blog that's living in his parents' basement. This is on AmericanMilitaryNews.com. This is a reputable site. It's a reputable source. We just had recently the Navy come out and admit that a series of UFO videos were real. So I think this is another part of that disclosure that's going on. And I can't wait, honestly, for the next bit. I'm enjoying this as they're releasing more and more things. So I'm going to throw over to Old Boy and get his opinion on this.
Thank you, brother. It's pretty weird. I heard something about this the other day, and I've heard about this black mass that comes out of the ocean before, and it's attacked somebody, but it was a different story. This one I heard the other day on Joe Rogan. I think it was on the news. They were talking about it. I think it was on a headline I saw on my phone, because sometimes I get the news on my phone, guys, and it will show you different headlines. And lately, I think it was CNN, has been doing a lot of things about crypto and aliens for some reason. So that was kind of weird. But here's what I think. Now, this has been seen before. Do I think it's a creature? Well, I'll get into that in a minute. Here's what I think it might be. For one, we only know about 8 to 10% of what's in the ocean. So, they said the giant squid didn't exist. Well, it does. They said the megalodon doesn't exist, and it probably does because they have video of it now. What I think this is it could be a couple things. It could be a giant ray, like James was saying earlier. The only problem with that is swallowing a torpedo that goes so fast, and the ballistics and the power when it blows up, it would have blown that thing in half. That's why I don't think it's a ray. Is it a new kind of creature we never seen? That's a possibility. But again, it ate a torpedo that is like a missile that's in the water. So do I think that's what it is, a creature? There may be a possibility on that. I don't know, some kind of new thing. Maybe it has absolutely some amazing power because it's almost 40 to 50 feet in circular. So it's a black mass. See, I've heard of something like a jelly, but not like that. And it just goes back into the ocean. Now, is this alien? Is it some kind of alien creature that is down there that's been put there because there's some kind of base there? Or is it some kind of weapon device? Well, I'll say this. It might be a weapon device to protect, think about it. It was a torpedo. That makes sense because it might have been a defense mechanism. And it said it happened before when an airplane was going, the Air Force. So think about that. Both times it's been a military thing. So it could be a defense mechanism that either some other country has or alien. And I'm not just saying alien up in space. See, that's what people don't realize. Alien means alien of this world. There could be something in the ocean, another civilization, or it could be an alien civilization that has gone under the water and has this kind of mechanism or a creature or some kind of device that just swallows up weapons like a black mask. And it protects them from whatever. Maybe they thought they were threatened. Maybe they thought something that was going to happen if this torpedo would have hit and caused a lot of damage. Maybe it was by one of their cities. Maybe it was just something they were playing around with, just wanted to prove a point. We're bigger and better than you. That could be a whole nother story I'm going to get into in a minute. Or it could have been, like I said, a defense mechanism. Now, could have been like kind of what I was saying. Hey, we could do what we want anytime we want, prove a point. Could be that's what the real big possibility is, I think. And I think it's alien. I think that there's another weird twist to this. Like it's some kind of like black hole they can control a black hole. I'm not saying it's probable. I think it's that maybe they open up a black hole and it just disappears. And then that's why it looks like it goes down. But then it said it went down into the depth. So that makes it sound like it's something else. I'm just giving theories here. I think it's probably alien. Or it's some civilization we don't know of. And that's a possibility. It's not impossible, people. I've seen people say this. Everything is different, or it's not of this world. It's always evil. And James even has talked about it. Not all the time it is. That's one thing I see a lot on some of these comments. It's got to be the devil. Or it's got to be something evil. It doesn't say in the Bible we were the only things. It doesn't say he made the stars and this. I'm not quoting anything. It doesn't say that he only made us. He made all these other planets. He wouldn't have done that. If you believe that, he wouldn't have done that for no reason. I think it could be alien. I think it could be a weapon or a protection, not really a weapon, a defense mechanism. Or it's a creature they have that we've never seen that just can take matter and swallow it. Or it's a black hole, it just opens up and disappears. But I don't think it's that because it went back down. So that's what I think. I think it's a very interesting story to go on Joe Rogan in the military and say this. Another military person said it in 2004. I've heard of this story before. This isn't the first time. It's actually, I'm glad we did it because it's back into the alien things, and I kind of like doing that once in a while. This thing, whatever it was, is not a megalodon, not a kraken, not a giant squid or fish or stingray. I think this was an alien weapon or protection mechanism or some kind of creature we don't know. It could be that possibility, or alien creature they brought from another world that's in the water. They were here before us. It's just proven. So all I'm going to tell you is we're seeing a lot more stuff. I see stuff on the Navy's finally admitting, even on CNN, Fox, all these channels now are saying aliens exist. They are real. They're doing more stuff for reasons. I'm just going to tell people this stuff doesn't happen for no reason. There's things are happening now. They're showing up everywhere. Do I think they're going to attack us? I don't think that's going to happen because I think they've been here for years already, thousands of years. I think it's just going to come out one day. I think that these things are going to come out one day and we're going to have to deal with it. I think that the problem we're going to have is a lot of people aren't going to know how to deal with this. It's either going to be they're evil, they're going to attack us, enslave us because of the movies that's on, on TV. Most alien movies, they don't make them nice. Make them like we're attacking, they're going to kill us, eat us, put us to slavery, or take our world over, or blow it up and destroy it. Those are what you always see. Once in a while, you'll see a good alien movie like E.T. or something like that, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to be known. Like, remember Alien Nation? Remember that movie they did where they came and Total Recall and stuff? I think we're going to be not the only beings in this world one day. There's going to be other beings. It's going to be like Star Wars. Maybe not that complex, but I think that's going to happen one day. Not at this moment. I think in the next 20 years, though, we're going to find out aliens really did exist. I think they've been lying to us for a long time. I think this black mask, this stuff's just going to keep coming out to something. The technology we're getting is more and more advanced. We're going to have something we're just going to see it. It's going to be impossible to say it's fake, not CGI. I think a lot of people are afraid of aliens. I think they're afraid, like I said, of something different. And that's also going to be a big problem because look how we are with racism, how we treat people who are different, heavy, many mentally, physically challenged. They get treated different. Sexual preferences, people don't treat them the same. It's going to be the same thing. And it might be vice versa. They might treat us different. I think that maybe this will change everything because humans are not going to be just able to hate each other now. They're going to hate aliens. And trust me, there will be people who hate aliens for some odd reason. For no reason, they don't know. It just happens. And I don't want to get off the subject, but we're talking about this black mask that swallowed a torpedo. That should kind of scare you, but it's also fascinating because we have really good technology and the thing just acted like it was nothing, like a toy. So back to what I was talking about is I hope people have an open mind. Now, this black mass, very interesting, 40 to 50 feet. That's really big. Circular, too. That's even weird. I've never heard of anything like that. I've heard stories. This is a really unique story because I've only heard it a couple times because I heard that in 2004 there was a report about this. And it was 50 feet. Some people are saying 40, 45. Who cares? Whatever this is something different than what we're used to hearing about. The Megalodon, the giant squid, the Kraken, the Cthulhu. If you guys ever read that story, it's supposed to be a giant 5-mile giant creature that lives in the ocean. H.P. Lovecraft wrote about, and I probably butchered the name. That's why we don't do the show. We wanted to do a show, but it's so hard to say that damn name. We don't sound like idiots. So that's why we kind of held back talking about that. It's supposed to be this giant creature that lives in the ocean. It's humongous. And I thought it was a story too. But one day, and I've watched this on TV, they said there was a sonar from one side of the ocean to the other side of the ocean. It was a weird noise. No one knows what it is. If it's that's how big it is. They talk about behemoths and the Leviathan in the Bible. James knows those stories. The Leviathan. Maybe this is the Leviathan we hear about, or the Cthulhu, whatever. You guys are probably laughing at me right now because I sound like an idiot, but trying to say that name. Imagine that thing if that was real. Just like this black mass. If you were just sitting on say you were in a boat, like a little boat, speedboat or surfing, and you seen this giant 50-foot mass just gobble up somebody's boat. Or a giant creature it's so tall you can't even see it in the sky. That's why I don't like the ocean, guys. I'm going to be honest with you, and James has the same thing. We don't fear these creatures, but there's nothing you can do in the ocean. If you're in water, you can't fight your way out of that if you're in the middle of the ocean. If you go get topped over and it's pitch dark, you're done. I don't care how tough and badass you think you are, you're done. You're in their element. You're not going to win, especially against the 200-mile monster, 2-mile monster, whatever it is. There's no winning that. Or a giant 100-foot shark or a 50-foot mass. They're going to win. I don't care unless you have like a torpedo or something, but it eats that. Or a giant boat, maybe you could, with weapons on a nuclear warhead, maybe. but then you'd be killing other people too. So just imagine this giant thing. If you're flying a plane and you shoot up a torpedo, and you see it and it gets gobbled up and something goes back in this in the ocean, that would just blow your mind. This is why I love doing this show, because this is something that I get to talk about, and it excites me because I'm glad to hear this stuff's coming out finally. It's on mainstream news. People need to start waking up. There's stuff out there. I know, it just like today, somebody was asking me about what's haunted places, and was arguing with me about these places are not haunted or not. This is why I don't like telling people anything, because they want to argue everything. If you don't believe anything, then don't worry about it. If you want to believe it, go find out for yourself. You want to argue to the point, you want to prove me wrong, go get proof. Don't tell me because you saw it on the internet that's your proof, or you just don't think it exists. That's an asinine thought to think that way. This giant thing, I believe it. This mass, I believe this is real. I don't think this one was fake, like the other story with the guy at Bigfoot and attacked his tent. He was creeping around the lady in guy's tent trying to see if that was just a lady in there, or trying to watch him do something. That's not like that story like we did the last week. This is a really good one because this is different, something we don't really talk about. See, we try to do different things on this show. We just don't talk about, the same things like everybody else does. I can't do a ghost show every day, every week. It just bores me. I'm sorry, guys. I love ghost and paranormal, but I don't want to burn myself out. I like doing other stuff. And giant mass in the ocean is something that we don't not hear a lot about. And now it's getting on TV and stuff, so it really interests me. I'm glad we got the James Pix's show, and I got to do it, and I'm really excited about it because listen to my voice. I get to talk about something different. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's something that I believe it's probably real. And I agree with James on that. I don't know if it's a mammal. It might be something new. You never know. It could be like a giant blob that just came out of nowhere and it evaporates and goes back. Maybe it's some kind of alien mass that they got from Jupiter that goes underwater and it forms when it sees something attack, and it forms and eats it. Maybe that's what it is. It's a Jupiter blob. That's what you call the blob. You remember the movie The Blob, guys, in the 50s, and I think they remade it in the 80s, like 85. The movie is good. I liked him. But the giant blob, maybe that's what it is. But it's not eating anybody. So, that would be interesting if that was true. That would be great. Go check those movies out, too. I know it's Halloween last week. We only have a week left. From today, it's going to be Halloween, and it's going to go to November, and we're getting into the holidays now and fall, and I think the time changes next week, too, next Sunday. But just go check those movies out, guys, for Halloween. And I hope everybody has a good night. And thank you, James, and happy Halloween, guys. Go ahead, James.
There is absolutely no question that this is real. That's not really up for debate. I mean, this is admitted by the military. It's on a military news site. We know that this happened. What exactly it is and what exactly took place is kind of what's being questioned here. And not questioned like, do we believe that it actually happened? I 100% believe it. It's what was it? That's what we're trying to figure out. And as I sat here and listened to Old Boy talk, a few things kind of popped into my head that was inspired by what he was saying that I hadn't thought of before. We know that this thing was very large, 40 to 50 feet. We know that it was circular and dark. Now, the first thing I was thinking of as he was talking when he said jelly is some unknown species of jellyfish, some gigantic jellyfish. And that would kind of fit in a way because if you look at how a jellyfish feeds, some of them will just kind of absorb their food. They literally just kind of take it into their body. It just kind of goes into it and just hangs out in there and digests. And you can look at it and see it in there. So that's kind of what happened with these torpedoes. Is they're trying to bring the torpedo up, and this thing appears from below and just kind of swallows it and goes away. That would kind of work with a jellyfish. The only problem I have with that is jellyfish are usually either translucent or they are more brightly colored than that. They're almost a neon-y look. And that's because of the way the light hits. But if you have something that large, it's going to be living deep in the ocean. So if you have a large jellyfish of that size that's living deep in the ocean, maybe it's not brightly colored or clear. Maybe it is a darker color to work as camouflage or something like that. I don't know. It's a possibility. Another thing I was thinking is, what must that torpedo look like as it's being hoisted up? You're going to have some sort of cable attached to it to hoist it up. So basically you have a line and you have a torpedo, which kind of is going to look like a lure in a way. So it's almost like you're fishing. You got your line and you got your lure. And as you're slowly bringing it up, it's like you're reeling the lure in. Maybe what we have here, maybe what the military saw, is not simply a 40 or 50 foot creature that's round. Maybe it's much larger than that. Maybe what we're looking at here is just the mouth of a larger creature. And when it opens its mouth and it's coming up, all they see is this dark round shape. Maybe that's just the inside of the mouth. And this thing comes up and takes the lure and goes down with it. That would kind of make sense to me. Because I was trying to think, why would you eat a torpedo? That doesn't make any sense. It couldn't be biological, because what creature in their right mind would eat a torpedo? It doesn't even resemble food in any way. But then when I started thinking about fishing, a lot of the lures we use will mimic prey. But then some of them just simply look almost like a torpedo. You know, some of the lures are just long and skinny and round, and they just look like a pencil basically, and you bring them through and they attack the movement. So maybe that's what we're dealing with here, is some very, very large creature. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something supernatural or otherworldly or anything like that. Maybe what we have is a very large creature. Some sort of animal, fish, that lives deep, deep, deep in the ocean, that either we have not discovered yet, something completely alien to us, that we have no idea even exists, or maybe it is simply a much larger version of something that we already know about. Like a very large version of some sort of fish that already exists, but it just grew way bigger because it lives way down deep, and you need to be larger because it's colder to stay warm. Maybe, who knows? Do I think that it's biological? Probably not. It's most likely something else. But if it is biological, that would make a lot of sense to me. Is that it has to be something that lives way down deep, that is humongous. But it can't be something that we're used to seeing. It can't be a whale. It can't be anything like that, because we would know what that is. When the diver saw it, he wouldn't say, hey, there's this 40 to 50 foot round darkness coming up and swallowing this torpedo. He would say, dude, a whale ate my torpedo. Man, you wouldn't believe it. A gigantic shark came and ate my torpedo. That's what we would get. We would get a description of the animal. So if this was an animal that was not like a big jellyfish or something, but an actual fish kind of creature, it had to have been gigantic, so that what he saw was just the mouth. And I don't know if anything like that actually exists or not. I know that there are some pretty damn big fish in the ocean. I can tell you that much. I mean, old boy, you talked about the megalodon. I talked about the megalodon earlier. That shark is the size of a school bus. That is insanely large. Now you might think, well, you know, a school bus is big, but it's not that big. I mean, megalodons would eat whales. They're not bigger than a whale, but they would feed on whales. That's impressive, because a whale is very big. And then you got some whales that are humongous also. So there is precedent for there being large animals in the ocean, large fish, large mammals, stuff like that, like whales in the ocean. So could it be some undiscovered species? Absolutely. 100% it is a possibility. It could be. Could it be alien? Maybe. That's also a very good possibility here. Because right now we're not going to deal with are aliens real or not. Because right now what we're trying to figure out is what this thing was. So we have to look at every single possibility. No matter how ludicrous you may think it sounds, it has to be considered before it can be discounted. And this is not the only report that we've had of aliens in the oceans. There's been a lot of reports of people, like I said earlier in the show, of people seeing ships disappearing into the water, of ships coming out of the water, of ships flying around the water, and then disappearing. So we have a lot of witness reports, and not just by crackpots. I mean, you have airline pilots that have reported seeing things like this over the ocean. You have military personnel from multiple countries that have reported seeing alien phenomena over the oceans. So it's not unprecedented. It definitely is something to consider. You even have some kind of what I consider to be interesting, but kind of a little more out there theories also of what the alien thing in the ocean could be. I've even heard people talk about Atlantis, talk about that Atlantis might be an alien civilization that's under the ocean. Now, as theories go, and especially like the conspiracy kind of theories go, that one's kind of nuts. It's kind of out there with flat Earth. It's really silly because it's really obvious to anyone that has ever studied any kind of history that that's not what Atlantis was. Atlantis was supposedly a group of technologically advanced people. Now, this is where the theory comes in, and it says, well, those people, the reason they were so technologically advanced was because they're not from our world. They were aliens, and that's why they had this great technology. And whatever happened, whether it was a natural disaster, like what Plato talks about, how there was volcanoes going off and it sunk the island of Atlantis into the sea, or whether it was some sort of thing that the Atlanteans themselves wanted to happen, and it was just seen as some sort of natural disaster, but in all reality, it was some sort of machinery that was operating to submerge the city so that they could go down underwater and not have to deal with humankind anymore, or maybe there was some sort of military threat that they had to deal with. Who knows? There's multiple different versions of this theory that I've heard. I think that one's kind of, if you're willing to take several leaps in logic, you can kind of weave a thread through it, but I don't give it a whole lot of credence. I don't think that it's very likely that that is true. Now, do I think that there could be an alien base in the ocean? Oh, absolutely. I guarantee you I think that. Because if you think about it, if aliens were coming here and made a base here, okay, they're staying long term. They're not just flying however many light years to Earth and then driving around for a little bit, taking a couple pictures, and then flying back. Okay, they're here for a reason, to observe, to study, to whatever they're here to do. They're going to need a base of operations here. So you start thinking, where could that base of operations be? Well, it has to be somewhere that there aren't a lot of people. Because you can't just land your ship in the middle of Central Park in New York City and cloak it like you would on Star Trek and think you're fine. Because somebody's going to bump into it. There's people every damn where. Everybody's walking around with their face on their cell phone, not looking where they're going. Somebody's going to crash right into that damn thing. No matter where you put it. You put it out in the middle of a field somewhere, some redneck's going hunting in that field, and he's going to shoot it, or he's going to bump into it. Some way it's going to get discovered. I guarantee it. So it has to be somewhere where there aren't a lot of people. Now, you can go Antarctica, and maybe they have. There's an awful lot going on with Antarctica. There's a lot of weird troop movements and a lot of classified planes and ships going in and out of there. There's research teams in Antarctica that were forced to leave by the military and not allowed back for a set amount of time. Something's going on in Antarctica. What is it? Not quite sure yet. Working on that. Researching it. We will have a show on that in the future. I'm still trying to piece all that together for you. But something's going on in Antarctica right now. So, could it be that there's a base there? It's a possibility. It definitely fits the bill of being where people aren't. That's kind of the important part. But the other place that would be very, very obvious would be in the ocean, because we don't go there. I mean, you have right off the coast, you have people that will surf, and you have people that go scuba diving and stuff like that, and you have ships that cross the ocean all the time, cargo ships and the like, but there's a lot of parts of the ocean where nobody goes. And if you're down deep in the ocean, if you have an underwater base deep in the ocean somewhere, nobody goes there. You have submarines that'll tool around sometimes, but they don't go super, super deep. So if you have the technology to fly here from some other planet, light years away, then I'm pretty sure you could figure out how to hang out down under the ocean, make yourself a little bubble or something like on Aquaman. I'm sure that could be done, especially, like I said, if you have the technology to get here from wherever the hell you came from. I'm sure they could figure out how to do that, so that makes a lot of sense. If it's alien, it would make sense that it would be in the ocean, because where is a better place to hide from us? And still be able to come out of the ocean, fly around, pick up rednecks, do whatever you want to do, turn cows inside out, whatever, and then go back underneath the water where nobody can find you. I'm making light of it a little bit, being a little silly, but if you think about it, honestly, that sounds like a great hiding spot to me. Because even if we knew they were there, even if I could show you right now a video or a picture of the alien base deep in the depths, if I say, right there it is, see it? And there's no way to misrepresent it, there's no way to think that it was anything but that. Even if they had a giant neon flashing sign that said, live aliens here, even if we had all that and we knew exactly where it was, what the hell could we really do about it? We can't go down there. If they make it deep enough, we can't get to them. The pressure is simply too great. Now, we've been down to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, which is the deepest part of the ocean, as far as we know. But we've only been there a few times, and as I mentioned earlier, it's a very, very small submersible. It's not a big submarine. It's not a big military ship. If you try to take a submarine down that deep, like a military submarine that has the capability of fighting, that thing is going to implode on itself like an aluminum can. Quickly. Everybody's going to die. You're not even going to get to fire a shot before you're dead, because that thing is just going to crumple in on itself. The pressure is way, way too intense to get anywhere near the bottom of the Mariana Trench in a normal submarine. So even if we knew, really nothing we could do about it. Now, I'm sure we could figure out a way to shoot a missile down there or something if we wanted to. I'm sure there's things we could do, but it would be very difficult to figure that out, to how to take out an alien base down in the ocean like that. Because if you think about it, they could do whatever they want down there. They could fly out whenever they want. They could stay down there if they want. I'm sure they can maneuver down under the water way better than we can. And as Old Boy mentioned earlier, the reason we don't mess around with the ocean too much is you can't fight in the ocean. You just can't. It's not the same. You put me on land, I don't care what you put me up against. Put me up against a croc, put me up against a gator, put me up against a damn lion. It might kill me, but I can fight. I got a chance. Whether it's a gun or a knife or my bare hands, I at least got a chance. Now, most likely bare hands, I'm dead. But at least I can go down fighting. I can try. I might be able to do some damage in the process. Who knows? You put me in an ocean, a little bluegill kicked my butt. because you can't fight in the ocean. You try to punch and it's super slow motion. You can't kick. You really can't do much of anything in the ocean to do any real damage. Now, if you have a knife or a gun, I mean, I'm sure that you could still do something. You shoot a spear gun at it or something like that, that'll work. But if you're dealing with a big shark or something, you're kind of up a creek without a paddle. And especially if all you have is a knife and you're going against like a great white or a tiger shark or heaven forbid one of these megalodons, something like that, you're dead. You just got no chance. You can't even try to put up a fight because you hit like a little third grader when you're under the water. There's nothing you're going to do about it. That's why we don't mess with the ocean. You know, I went to the ocean. I'll tell you a fun story real quick before we end this thing. When I was a little kid, I grew up in the military. I spent my entire life in the military. And I started out in Germany. That's my earliest memories are of Germany. Now, I wasn't born in Germany. I was born here in Virginia. And we moved to Andrews Air Force Base, which was in Maryland. And then from there, that's where my little brother was born. And then we moved over to Germany. Well, my first memories are of Germany. I don't remember anything before that. So I grew up over in Germany. And then once we left Germany, we moved back here to the States and we moved to Texas. And I lived there for 4 years. Well, while we were in Texas, we used to go at least 1 weekend a month, sometimes more often, down to Corpus Christi to the Gulf of Mexico. Because I lived right outside of San Antonio, Texas, and it wasn't that far of a drive to get down to Corpus. And it's beautiful, beautiful beach down there. So we'd go down there, and I remember I went down one time, and I was out swimming in the ocean with a bunch of rays. Now, they weren't there when I got in the water, but they came up, and they started swimming with me, and I would grab their I guess you call them fins, the outside of the shape, and they would just kind of pull me along. And I thought that was really cool. Now, I don't know exactly what kind of rays they were. Maybe it was dangerous as hell. Maybe it was a stupid thing to do. But I lived through it. Everything was fine. So I thought that was cool. So I got out of the water, and I was telling my mom and my dad and everybody how cool this thing I just did was. And as I'm telling them, I hear screaming like you wouldn't believe. And all of a sudden, there's all these people running towards it and freaking out. And not too long after that, there's sirens and ambulances and all kinds of stuff going on. I thought, what in the hell just happened? Well, right down where I was swimming, literally a couple minutes before this happened, I had just got out of the water, made it up maybe 15, 20 feet onto the beach to where my family was to tell them about this cool stuff that I was just doing. There was a guy that got bit by a sand shark. Now, a sand shark is not a great white. A sand shark is not a tiger shark or a bull shark. A sand shark is a relatively small shark, as sharks go. It's still a substantial, it's 4 or 5 feet probably, but it's not gigantic. But this thing bit this guy's leg, and there wasn't a whole lot left below the knee. It was pretty bad. And that was right where I was swimming, in the same little area, only minutes before. So I was in the water with that shark and had no idea. No idea that it was even there. Ever since that day, I haven't been in the ocean since. Now, I've been on boats once in a while, going fishing, stuff like that, but I've never got on the ocean again. Because I started thinking, what are you going to do? In a case like that, I'm sure that guy didn't see the shark and decide he was going to kick it or something stupid. I'm sure he was just minding his own business and maybe stepped on it and that's why it bit him, or maybe the shark just felt like biting the dude's leg. Maybe that's what he wanted for lunch. Who knows? But I got to thinking, even if you knew the shark was there, if you're out swimming and you see it, what can you really do to stop it? There's not a whole lot. Now, they tell you, oh, you can punch it in the nose and all this. I think you're screwed. I think if a shark wants to bite you and eat you, you're going to get bit. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. They're so much faster than you, so much stronger than you. And like I said, you're not on land where you have a chance to move and fight You're in the water. I don't care if you're an Olympic swimmer. You're no match for a shark in the water. So that's why I stay the hell out of the water. So basically, my final thoughts on this is I guarantee you it's real because it's on a reputable site. You got military personnel saying this actually happened on multiple occasions. We know it happened. So the options are extraterrestrial, biological. It's one of those two. Now, I gave you a couple examples of things it could be if it was biological, and we talked a little bit about it being extraterrestrial. Honestly, for me, I think it could be either one. I'm leaning more towards the extraterrestrial explanation simply because if it is biological, it had to be something that we don't know about yet. It had to be something that is tremendously large that is undiscovered, which means it has to live deep in the depths. And if that's the case, what's it doing up top in the first place to get this torpedo? It just seems less likely to me than the explanation of it being aliens. Now, that might sound insane to you because you might say, well, wait a minute. It being a fish sounds less likely than it being an alien? Well, I can tell you aliens exist. I know aliens exist. So I'm thinking that's a much more likely explanation. So that's where I come down on it. Most likely, I think it's aliens, but if it is biological, it's something that we haven't heard of yet. So I'm going to throw back over to Old Boy for his final sum up on it, and then he'll go right into our shout-outs.
Thank you, brother. Like I said, I think it's real. I don't know what it is yet. I have my theories. You guys heard what I thought. So I hope you guys, listen to the show, and maybe you guys can tell us in your comments on what you think it is and leave and tell me your opinion and leave it. Please, if you're going to leave something stupid like some people do, we're just going to ignore it and delete you. Because there's a lot of people who have fake accounts and they're pretending they're just being trolls. So, but if you have a legit question, ask it and tell us what you think it might be. I want to thank everybody on ParaX. I love you guys for listening, and thank you on the YouTube people for listening to us. And you guys want to subscribe and listen to our old shows, go to James Hershey YouTube page and subscribe. I'm going to start doing more things on live so you guys can check me out. Thank you guys. I love you. If you guys want to get some merchandise, he'll tell you where to go. Shirts, clothing, baby clothes, blankets, whatever. He'll tell you where to go, and he'll tell you what site to look at. And maybe we'll start advertising it on YouTube. We're supposed to be doing that soon, so you'll know what to get. There's a lot of cool stuff. So I hope everybody has a good weekend. I know Halloween's next week, so be careful, guys. Happy Halloween to all you guys. Happy holidays to who doesn't celebrate it. But remember, have a good time with your family and your kids. You're going trick-or-treating, and be safe because there's a lot of idiots out there and weirdos. And we do love you, so we care about you. So I hope everybody has a good night. Misfits, sugar ladies, demon hunters, and monster lovers. Have a good night. Blessed be. I love you. Happy Halloween.
The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's where all the videos are. You got every episode of Staring. There's over 100 episodes on there, each an hour long. You have every episode of Tales from the Abyss, the TV show we do. You have all kinds of paranormal news videos, all kinds of stuff on there. There's several hundred videos on there now. So please go and check out the channel. If you're listening on the radio, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. It's a lot of cool content there. The merchandise store, the link to the merchandise store, if you're watching this on YouTube, is down in the description box. If you want to help support the channel and you like what we do, please visit the store and pick something up. That helps us a great deal. If you're listening on the radio, the store is teespring.com/stores/staring into the abyss. That's teespring.com/store with an S on the end /staring into the abyss. That's where all the merch is. There's t-shirts, there's all kinds of different stuff. So if you like merch and you like staring and you want some staring merch, that's where you can find it. If you want to help support the channel, that's where you can go to do so. Thank you guys so much for all your support and all the love you show. As far as the trolls and all that stuff go, you get that every once in a while. It doesn't concern me all that much. Just please be nice to each other at least. I mean, I don't care what you say about me, but some people I've noticed on some of the videos that get like a lot of views, sometimes it'll go 500,000, million, whatever. I mean, way up there. And when that happens, you get a lot of people come in that, and they kind of just start insulting each other and fighting with each other, which is kind of weird to watch. But just try to be civil and kind to each other. That's all I ask. And as far as Halloween goes, I hope you guys have a good Halloween. Make sure you check your candy. And if it looks suspect and you don't think, it's very good, especially if it's like Reese's or something like that, you can send it to us here at Staring, and we will check it out for you and taste test it and make sure that it's all good, because we care like that for you. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. I hope that you enjoy what we do here, and we greatly appreciate you hanging out with us. And until we speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.